let's talk about something else. This was super exciting for a lot of people. The Clone Wars Obi-Wan. I want to ask you guys, is it great or is it good enough? And some people might say it's not even good enough, right? But $279, I ran a poll on this one, and they keep trying to advertise me Ahsoka, but I'm not looking at Ahsoka right now. So that said, they keep, with this one, with the Obi-Wan, I know a lot of people, Leo, I want to start with you. A lot of people are really excited about this one. I heard a couple, maybe people were like, this isn't really that good. Kiko, Mr. King of Hot Takes, came in and was like, this isn't good enough. It's not a Ewan McGregor. But I ran a poll, Leo, and most people seem to be pretty excited about this head sculpt. I think it's maybe in the range of, like, for some, Mace Windu, where it's like a pretty good head sculpt. Maybe not as great as we hoped it would be, but it's the character that we've always wanted. It's Obi-Wan in Clone Wars, and we're really excited about it. So, Leo, what do you think, man, with this figure? Are you satisfied with what you're seeing so far?
I am. I'm definitely satisfied because it's definitely a step up. I mean, look, I don't honestly, bro, to me, and this is just my opinion, there is no such thing as a super, super perfect head sculpt. Even and it's going to be unpopular. And I'm just going to say this is that once we get to the figure, I'll just say why. The Aragorn is dope. It is probably the closest to a 10 that you're going to actually get as far as a figure. But nothing is always perfect. There are some things that might miss the mark. It may not be the head sculpt. It may be something in the tailoring. It's going to always be something that might slightly miss the mark that may not always be there. This, I wasn't expecting it to be, a home run, but it is far above what we actually got with that, Revenge of the Sith version of Obi-Wan. It definitely is. It's 10 times better than that head sculpt to me. Also is better than what we got from the Obi-Wan television show. But again, it's I would actually say it's between an 8.5 out of 9, in a 9, 8.5 and a 9 out of a 10 to me. But that's what I'm saying. Like, nothing is actually 100% perfect, but for what we got and for what we're getting, I'm extremely excited about it. I love this piece, everybody's wanted. And then on top of that, because it does have that 20th anniversary logo on it, that just lets us know that we're going to get more from this line, and I'm excited about it. So again, everybody's wanted it. They wanted to actually have this piece in their collection, and you'll finally get it. You know what I mean? Especially next to Anakin, to have that Clone Wars Anakin, it's definitely gonna look like a really good piece. If you get the clean version of the clones, once you get a couple of those to actually have with this piece, it's going to be incredible. So again, I mean, is everything going to be 100% perfect when it comes to this piece? No, but I think they did a damn good job with improvement. It's a vast improvement from what we've got previously, from this version of Ewan McGregor, which is, it's just like, yo, how can you get that wrong? Like, what is so tough about it? If you can get, Alec Guinness good, and then we know that they're really, really good with older sculpts. If you can get Reva good, as far as that head sculpt, that is one of the best head sculpts I've seen. You know what I mean? There's a couple of them out there that you can do it. Like, how are you getting Ewan McGregor wrong? Is it the mustache that's giving you a problem? Is it? I don't really know. I wonder if he's asking, how the fuck are y'all getting me wrong? I mean, I don't know. Like, how do you think whatever? But I mean, for what we actually get from this piece, I definitely think in my opinion, it's worth it. It would be worth it for anyone to have it in their collection, especially if you're a Star Wars fan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's definitely what it is.
Yeah, I see what you mean, bro. Absolutely, man. And for like the Clone Wars fans, which there are many of them out there, I would say that this is one of those figures that people have been waiting on for a long, long time. And when it just popped up out of nowhere, people were like, finally, bro. So I mean, it's, and Leo, I mean, to be fair, like you said, like the Revenge of the Sith head sculpt is not perfect either.
At all.
The proto was. The proto for Revenge of the Sith, I was like, damn, that thing was great. But then the final product, it's not terrible, but I wasn't happy with it.
But and that's the thing is, it's like, this is definitely a step above those head sculpts. Like that, again, I'm hoping that they learn a lesson. And I think they will, because that's exactly what they did with this. When we first seen this from the prototype, they actually had that Revenge of the Sith head sculpt on it. You know what I mean? It was the same one. So we've seen that, now they changed it up. We're finally getting this piece. They probably held off specifically because they were going into the 20th anniversary of Attack of the Clones. Clone Wars, I'm sorry. So that would have actually made sense. But again, for what we got, I like it. I think it's good, and it's all built off of perception. Everybody's going to have their own interpretation. If you see some of the head sculpts that we actually got from this piece, especially with the eye roll technology, with the purrs, I think they did a good job, bro. Literally, I think they did.
I think so too, bro. And I want to jump to Dean on this one. Dean, I'm not sure how big of a fan you are of the Clone Wars, but I want to ask you, bro, how are you feeling about this Obi-Wan head sculpt? You feeling positive, negative, sort of indifferent? What do you think?
Well, first of all, I love the Clone Wars. This figure, as it sits, pretty dang good. Now, I am confused. They have it as the 20th anniversary of Clone Wars, but Clone Wars came out in 2008. The 2D animated Clone Wars is the one that came out in 2003.
Yeah,
this Obi-Wan is like an amalgamation of both versions of Obi-Wan, because he does not wear the cape in Clone Wars, as far as I remember, the 3D one. But he does wear a brown cloak with full clone armor in the 2D one. So it's like it doesn't really know what it wants to be. That being said, it looks phenomenal because you could just take the cape off, I'm assuming, and have Clone Wars 2008 with your Clone Wars Anakin. It's going to look phenomenal. But I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know. I've been looking. I cannot find a screenshot of 3D Obi-Wan with this cape on. But that's my only really real complaint with this figure. And I guess with Hot Toys, it's like, well, what 20th anniversary are you celebrating here? Because this ain't it.
So, and that was my question. Do you think that and that was in the beginning, it's like, do you think that they kind of slid this in just to kind of ramp up the hype for that? Because you're right, like that version of it was 2003. Yeah. But in that version, this wasn't the one that was in that particular version. You know what I mean? Right. It wasn't. So I'm wondering if they just slid it in there to say, okay, cool, this is going to be, you know, what you'll get. You know, this is what you'll get, you know, for that. We'll kind of like use this as a flagship type of situation for.
I mean, that would be cool to get like another version later that's like a different representation. Hopefully not just the same figure with more stuff and you screw the people out buying this one. But yeah, I'm not sure. It's weird. I'm excited to see where they go with this line if they keep doing the Clone Wars line. So I think I have zero problem. Actually, I think they've done really well in every Obi-Wan head sculpt. I know a lot of people didn't like episode 3. I think the prototype was better than the final one, but I still have no problem with the final one. So this one to me is still pretty good, but I'm also a sucker for Obi-Wan. So,
no, it's understandable, bro. We all have our characters and, you know.
Yeah. So this is really cool. And I know a lot of people didn't pick up Anakin because they never announced this. And now that they have announced it, people are picking up Anakin. So that's cool to see. But that's going to be a badass display. So I'm tempted. I'm like, because I have episode 3 Obi and Anakin already, so I'm like, do I want a second display? And I think I might pull the trigger.
Well, maybe Dean, it's kind of a matter of like, you know, like you said, it's an amalgamation of different like Clone Wars looks. Maybe it's kind of like how they've done with realistic head sculpts. Like they didn't really go animated for Clone Wars. They kind of make it both, right?
Yeah. So he does the outfit other than the cape is from 2008, and there is an episode where he wears the helmet, so that makes sense. But. Oh shit! What was I about to say? Oh my god!
It's a 44-year-old brain, bro.
Oh, I was gonna say the only time I could find this particular outfit is the what's the statues from Sideshow?
That
Mythos?
That Mythos,
is a Mythos statue, and I'm like, did they just go off the Mythos? Like that's such a weird thing to do.
I think that's what they did. Because the Mythos statue had the cape and the actual helmet as well, and it looks like they just took it from that. But I think even the logo is different in Clone Wars. So it's like, what is this? It's so
before
confusing.
I jump to Ben, do you guys think anyone's going to use the helmet for this? Like, is it like are people going to display it that way?
I'm not.
I would think probably not, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
probably.
I mean,
not.
It's cool for maybe like a photo or two, but in display. Yeah, I think Obi-Wan is. You gotta show.
Yeah, you want the head sculpt. Yeah. It's kind of like I guess a different type of example, but similar, is like the third-party soldier boys, like the ones with actually the helmet, the mask on or whatever. Like you're probably never going to use that, right? You really want him, you know, unmasked. That's kind of how he was most of the show. But anyway, Ben, what do you think, bro, about this Obi-Wan Kenobi? I'm not sure how big of a Clone Wars fan you are, but I know there's a lot of excited collectors out there for this.
Yeah, so I didn't want to be a fake fan, so I'm happy Dean was here today, because Dean had told me all of those points in our private chat the other day in Messenger, and I was like, wow, like that's a great take. I will not be able to recommunicate that on Will's show on Sunday, so really happy you're here for that one. In terms of the figure itself, you know, the boys at Collecting Weekly, they make fun of me a little bit because every time there's a figure announcement or release, it's always at like 2 o'clock in the morning. So I'm always in bed when I'm looking at these figures. And I'm laying in bed the other night and I open my phone and there's Obi-Wan Kenobi. And the first picture, you know, you have that feeling where you're like, oh, okay. And you like flip to the next one, you're like, maybe. And you flip to the next one, you're like, okay though, you know. And I did that like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, shit. Because now people are going to ask me what I think about this figure, and I'm like divisively torn on the inside. So yeah, I would say that that's why for me it's about an 8 or an 8.5.
That's right.
I think that it is good enough. I think that if you're a major Star Wars fan, especially Clone Wars or Kenobi specifically, it might not be exactly what you were hoping for, but I do think it's better than some of the previous iterations we've had. Yeah. I like that they go into some of the realism, especially in his skin texturing. You see his mole or whatever that he has on his forehead. I don't think they gave that to us on the Kenobi show, which is a strange omission for a figure, because that's part of his face. I've seen them do that with Christian Bale too, with his mole, and I'm like, dude, that is a very iconic piece of his face. So you can't leave that out, right? I think at certain angles it looks exactly like Ewan McGregor, and then at other angles, for some reason, it's a little soft. The only challenge I have with the good or good enough statement is I would still rather see a Hot Toys company tackle quality over quantity. If they took more time to bake these in the oven, I think that they would all come out as absolute bangers, similar to the Anakin we just recently saw. That thing looks friggin' awesome. So why aren't they all at the same quality level? Why are we having this kind of roller coaster of quality? Even Mace the other day, that's torn the community in half. It's not bad looking, but it's not perfect either. Why aren't these being left in the oven a little longer? And it's because there's so many streaming services now. There's so many shows. There's so many things that these folks need to try and pump out and try and keep up with. Because, I mean, let's be honest, we're still waiting on figures, Miss Marvel, for example, stuff like that, shows that we got months ago that we haven't seen releases from. And as that time clicks by, you know that when they eventually release that figure, people are going to be like, oh, well, I would have got it 7 months ago if that, they released it when the show came out. But because they didn't, I'm probably not going to buy it. But it's that you can't win situation, because if they don't underbake these and get them out, people aren't going to buy them. If they overbake them and take too long, people are going to say they forgot about the show already and they've moved on. So it's tricky. I almost wish we could go back to a time with less content, so we get a little more time.
I don't blame.
And let me ask you something, Ben, because you bring up a very good, and this is what we have been saying previously, is that, when there was less, again, we have more streaming services than we had usually before. You have so many different platforms. So again, Disney being who they are and actually having that streaming service, they're really, really pushy when it comes to merchandise. We need to get this out. We need to get this out. We need to get this out. So anyone that they actually have these licenses with, they're like, okay, cool. We need to basically push this product. You're going to see a lot more as well, because of the simple fact that, again, the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi is coming up, in April. You know what I mean? So now we're dealing with that, plus the 20th anniversary of of Clone Wars. So that's 2 IPs that they have licenses for that they're going to start, they're going to kick out product. Also, let me ask you a question. Do you think that also our visual has changed? The way we basically see these figures, the way our perception is drawn, it's changed because we are looking at excellent pieces of, of art pieces when it comes to companies like InArt. We see that. So then automatically, okay, our eyes are fixated on that. That's quality. We see that it happens. We go to Hot Toys and it's like, damn, if there was no competition, we would probably see it different. I'm just wondering if there wasn't any competition, if we weren't looking at pieces like that Aragon, which is by far, anytime my girl looks at this piece and she asked me if it's Viggo Mortensen. And I'm like questioning myself, like, is that
sure
really
it's not
Viggo
Viggo?
Yeah, I thought it was a movie still when I first
like
saw
literally,
it. Yeah.
like if I see that, then
100%.
you know this shit is on point, and you know that it basically pushes that needle forward. So of course, when we see that, we're gonna go back and look at this stuff, and it's like, okay, Hot Toys, we know you're capable of giving us product and giving us good product, giving something that's worth it. You know what I mean? So again, I'm glad to see that it is pushing that needle forward, but sometimes they have to admit that there's competition and that they have to basically say, you know what, we need to step up. We do need to actually step up. You know what I mean? Because again, like when I see this, I'm like, I know what the potential, I know that you can do better because you've proven it before. You've had some wins. Like definitely when I saw that, and I have to go back to it when I saw Reva. Yo, that head sculpt is incredible. Casca Reeves, that head sculpt is incredible. So we know that they're capable of actually doing it, but I'm just wondering if our perception has slightly changed a little bit because of the simple fact that we see excellence out of a company that's competition.
I think it does. It also depends on if it's the character that you love most. Like, for example, the in-art Joker. Like, Joker is one of my favorite characters of all time, if not my favorite character of all time. As good as the in-art one even is, I don't know if that would have ever achieved a level of perfection in my mind because I wanted it to be basically Heath Ledger sitting on my shelf, which is impossible. You know, like, so you can set the bar in your own mind a little high. But I think Reva was a good point. You know, like that was a great sculpt, at least from what we've seen from the prototype. It looks exactly like her, and it's the right price point. My pushback on you there was going to be, well, if they take time and longer to make better looking head sculpts, would they be more expensive like in art? And then would we still buy them because then they're even more expensive than they're starting out as?
Good question.
So then it's like, there's that, again, that kind of dichotomy of, okay, we need to get it out for time, for it to be present in people's minds, for people to care about it, but it also has to be the right price that people can justify putting in their collection. Especially if, like a figure like this, where I want a Kenobi in my collection because I love Star Wars, but I probably only want one Kenobi in my collection. So will this be it?
Would that be the definitive? Would this be
my definitive one?
Yeah,
exactly.
Got you.
Well, and for me, probably not.
Well, that's what I was going to say, Ben. Like, I started to cut you off, but I was just going to say basically that I think what InArt has shown, I think what InArt has shown, layout too, as far as like prototypes go, is that, and I will always own this. In the beginning, when InArt was starting out, I was like, I'm not sure people are going to pay these prices. I think they've shown that they will. If you create quality that people just can't ignore, then they will pay those prices. Like if you put this Obi-Wan up and it looked like the quality of the InArt Aragorn, for example, the prototype, people would pay $500 for it. We might bitch a little bit, but we'd be like, well, shit, the quality is amazing. So like this Obi-Wan, it's really not bad. I'm with you guys. But at the end of the day, like, you know, I feel like it's like an 8, like Ben said. I feel like it's like an 8. Like it's good enough where you're like, okay, like if I love Obi-Wan Clone Wars, I'm still going to get this. But it's not to the point where it's like, man, I'm just fucking amped for this. You know what I mean? Like some people feel that way, and I think that's great. Maybe it's just because I'm not a huge Clone Wars fan. But, you know, for example, this head sculpt, it's really pretty good. But at the end of the day, like you said, Leia, we know what Hot Toys is capable of, and we know it can be better than pretty good. Like that's,
we know because we've witnessed how good they've been in the past. We know that they've been, you know, and it's just that we're seeing, you know, we're not seeing the consistency that we're used to.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because like I agree, I completely agree because there's way too much content that's dropping right now. Like, I mean, and then consider the simple fact that you have also the simple fact that they've also upped the license on Mando. So now we basically see that Mando 3 is coming. So they have all that stuff that's actually, you know, in the works. It's like, what the hell do we do? Like, you know, and how do they catch up? You know, do they have to hire more people? They have to have like a subdivision or something like that where they just kind of like, you know, just divvy out. Okay, we want you to handle Marvel. We want you to handle Star Wars. We want you to do this, that, and the third. Because I think it's a lot of content that's out there right now, and it's hard for them to, you know, to catch up. Whereas InArt, all they're focusing on right now is Warner Brothers. So they don't have to really do too much of anything else. And they can take their time to give us a certain level of perfection. They gave us a list of figures that they were working on, and we know that's what they're working on right now. Whereas Hot Toys, we don't know what the fuck is coming next. We just know when they drop it or they release it, this is what they're working on. We're like, okay, that's fine. You know what I mean? But if you're going to do that, take your time and give us quality because we know you're capable of doing it. That way we don't have these discussions where people are like, I see it, I slightly see it, I see it. We talk about Aragorn, everybody's like, oh, fuck that, that's Viggo Mortensen.
Yeah, nobody's
Like
arguing
100%.
that one. Yeah.
Not at all, 100%.
One last
Yeah.
thing to say
Yeah.
is it's the good enough part of it that sticks with me in your question, because I think the other challenging issue is not sending Hot Toys mixed messages as collectors or even content creators like you guys. Like, if you say, for example, is the Mace Windu good enough? Some people will say yes. A lot of people will say no. We're all kind of hoping that maybe they still update that slightly. The Doc Ock is another example of that. A lot of people don't love that Doc Ock sculpt. We're all kind of hoping that they change it. Is it good enough to buy it? People will still buy it. I had that experience with Doc Brown the other day. Is it good enough? I've got it in my collection, but I kind of wish they'd updated it. With this, if we buy it because it's good enough and we don't ask for change, it's like, when do they know to create that change? When is like positively, right? We want to give folks feedback at Hot Toys without like mass bombing them with comments and just like negativity and criticism, but we also want to make sure that they hear us when we're like, it needs work. Right. So we also have to try and get our messaging straight as creators, but also just the collecting community of what is good enough and what's really not good enough and why. So we can ask for that change.
And you know what? I see in the chat, the Leah Meyer actually makes a very good point.
Yeah, she asked. I was going to bring that up. She asked a really good question.
Very good point. Like, why? What I don't understand is why does Obi-Wan have to look 100% like Ewan McGregor? He doesn't look like that in Clone Wars. You're right. You're definitely right. So it's just the translation from animation to live action, and I think that's what we're getting hooked on is the simple fact that. In live action, now mind you, live action, we have never seen him in this suit before. Never. Not once did we actually see that on any film, not even on Obi-Wan. Could we get a flashback in Ahsoka? Possibly. You never know. But, maybe, and that could be something that they're ramping up for. It's for us to see something like that because we know we will get flashbacks. But I think that's what we're focusing on is the simple fact that it is a translation into live action. So the expectation is for it to look exactly like Ewan McGregor. Right. You know what I mean? This is what we want. And they haven't gotten it completely right. But for what I see right here, I'm still going to get it because I think it's an incredible piece, plain and simple. Like, and I'm a Star Wars fan and I'll definitely rock out with it. And my concern has nothing to do with the sculpt, the tailoring, and nothing like that. My concern is them fucking ankles. I hope, in fact, like literally, bro, because it's the same damn ankles that you would get from any of the other clones and Rex. And I hate Rex's legs, bro. I can't stand them up without having a stand. It's just incredible. It's impossible right now. So, it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a really good question, Natalia. I think basically what I would say is kind of like I'm seeing in the chat. They were going for a live action look of Obi-Wan here, clearly. And I think that's why we're expecting it maybe to be a little bit better than it is. Because clearly it's meant to be Ewan McGregor. So if you're going to go for that look and not make it animated, go all the way in. Which I think is what they've done. But it's just not, it's maybe like Ben said, a little undercooked, basically. Like it's like it needed a little more time in the oven.
Is it me? Is it me, Dean? Or does this... Okay, let me look. Let me look real quick. I'm looking real quick. If Will had hair,
so you think this could pass? You think this could pass as a WillFoxification head sculpt,
bro?
We just need to get this on. We need to get it derooted.
Right.
Derooted.
Right. We need a derooted.
Easy to derooted.
Look at that shit.
I swapped the head hairpiece.
I know, right? I need a hairpiece. Or give me a hairpiece that I can wear for sure. I actually do have one, but I've never worn it on the show. It's just a stupid wig from Amazon, that's it. Yeah, man.
Were you going to say, Dean, though?
Oh, I was going to say, in terms of the ankle problem, sounds like you need some Collecting Weekly joint juice.
Yo, somebody.
What a plug.